All right, guys, welcome to the Sophisticated Man. Back at it with another podcast. You know who I am, obviously. Today I'm joined by another special guest, Mr. Richard. What's going on, man?
What up, dude?
Not too much, man. Good to have you on the call here. So
Yeah.
Richard is more or less a relationship, I think I'd say relationship expert, relationship coach. I don't know what you would call
Mhm.
yourself exactly, but briefly kind of just describe a little about yourself, what you do, why you do what you do, and yeah, how you help men.
Sure, yeah. I mean, more rather than less, but,
Yeah.
but I'm a relationship coach. What I essentially do is I help recovering nice guys, right, like myself, really kind of maneuver their way through people pleasing in order to and unlock themselves, right, and
Mm,
their internal sort of like blocked masculinity, in order to make themselves the most attractive version of themselves to their wives. And I teach them self leadership so they can actually lead their family and their relationship to their own, respective promised land, right?
mm.
Uh, Essentially, I'm a dating coach, but for married men,
Yeah.
right? Like, because it's all at the end of the day, we all do the exact like the same shit, right? It's sort of like. By the way, where are we on cursing? I'm sorry, I don't want to disrespect.
Go for
Okay.
it. Go for it.
But we're all doing the same shit, right? Like, hey, you want, to date some baddies all around the world? Cool, be a better man. Roll
Hmm.
credit, right? Oh, you want to attract your wife back so that she doesn't divorce you and take the kids, and then you lose everything and then die alone in a Motel 6 by the river? Okay, become a better man. And
Yep.
I think the thing that, men like you and I have dedicated the rest of our lives to is, what does it mean? What does becoming a better man mean? Well, we found the answer to
Mm,
that, right? It's integrating all of yourself. It is becoming unashamed of who you are, and more importantly, what you are.
mm.
What you are, because the general consensus is that we suck.
Yep.
We suck. We're toxic. We're sentient ATMs that we only serve one purpose, which is to rape and pillage, and to be misogynistic, and to make corporate America an unsafe place to be, make Hollywood an unsafe place to be. There's a lot of stigma to masculinity, to men, and guys like you and I are here to change that, right?
Mm.
Because one of my mentors and dear friends, she told me masculinity is like a fire.
Yeah.
It can burn the house down,
Mm.
or it can keep your family warm. So, but it comes down to the individual. It comes down to the man. And
Mhm.
so when you have more men like us and like our clients, like our people, right, unlock that fire within for the
Mm.
betterment of mankind,
Mhm.
for the safety of women, right? Our daughters, our sons, our families.
Mm.
What happens then? What does life look like then? What does the world look like then?
Mm.
What I do, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I couldn't have come up with a better intro if I tried, man. That's awesome because I totally agree with everything that you said. There's some really great things that we can dive into. And what you said kind of reminds me of Jordan Peterson. He said something similar to that, I think, at one point where he was like,
You have to
be a
be a monster.
dangerous, yeah, be a monster. He's like, be a monster. Like have the ability to like just physically to be imposing, to fight someone, to be violent. Not that you're trying to actively do any of that stuff, but you have the ability to. It's like the saying, it's better to be a what is it? It's better to
Warrior.
be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Exactly. So it's having the capabilities of doing so, but controlling how you do it is the key, that maintenance.
Yeah.
And, maybe we can start there with just the definition of masculinity and kind of where we've come as a society and how
Mhm.
that's viewed, in the mainstream. Because I agree. I think a lot of people have these negative connotations with even the word masculinity. So, in
Yeah.
your opinion, like where do you think we are right now in terms of how people view that?
Well, a lot of it was in my intro, right? I feel like there's a negative stigma with masculinity. I definitely had it. I had it, right? Because who was the first quote unquote masculine presence in your life?
Usually your father.
Your father. How many of us are running around with unhealed daddy issues that we then not only project
Hmm.
to our friends, our girlfriends, our wives, our children?
Hmm.
My mentor once told me, what we do not fix within ourselves, our children will inherit.
It's facts.
Right. And so when I heard that, that lit a personal development fire under my ass.
Mm.
Okay, becoming a better person, right? That's what personal, it's subjective, personal development. And so I was like, okay, here's how I can grow myself as a human, right? And so I did a lot of that. I learned a lot of that. Okay, setting intentions, reaching goals, this and that, blah blah blah, right? Create a vision for yourself. Well, all these good things, good things. Personal development is a good thing.
Hmm.
However, I didn't approach it as what I was, right? Which is a man.
Mm.
And then the more work I ended up doing on myself, the more I realized I had a lot of wounds and I had a lot of pain in my heart. Stemming from what? Stemming from childhood, stemming from never having a model
Hmm.
of math. Right? I believed that math, because the problem is that it's lost in interpretation.
Right.
Right? It is lost in a person's own subjective experience.
Hmm.
You talk to a million women. You ask them, what is your experience with masculinity?
I'll say something different.
It's all going to be different, but how much of it is going to be negative,
Hmm.
right?
True.
How much of it is going to be rooted in abuse, assault, uh, um, abandonment,
Mm.
right? And so my particular experience with masculinity itself was, oh, men, when they have kids, they complain about their kids. They get a college degree, they get and then they get a job and they pay for them, and then they watch TV
Hmm.
and they die. You know what I mean? Or they
Hmm.
drink themselves to death to suppress their emotional pain, and
Yeah.
then that was it. So I just did all of that minus the alcohol, right? Once I had children. And so, okay, well, then I was upset. I was like, well, okay, I'm miserable. Like I did everything that I was supposed to do. I have a job, I have kids, right? I'm paying for them. Why am I so unfulfilled?
Hmm.
Why am I so unhappy? And why am I making it everybody's problem?
Mm.
It's because I had a very wounded, and this is important. This speaks to your content, which is beautiful, by the way. I absolutely love your stuff.
Thanks, man.
Um, Speaks to that, which is wounded masculinity
Yep.
is rooted in a victim mindset. It
Mm.
is rooted in philosophy that life is happening to me.
Hmm.
It is coming from a reactive place. And so, because I was so angry with my dad, I wanted nothing to do with that. And that's where the birth of the nice guy comes in. Because who ended up becoming my dad and my mom? My mom. So I end up what? I end up becoming everything for her, right? She's my number one source of nourishment, nurture, and survival.
Hmm.
But I put on the mask of the good boy for years. And I
Mm.
know that a lot of our audience are the young cats, right? So what like and no doubt they can relate to, if nothing else, that. Maybe not hair loss, but definitely maybe becoming a people pleaser.
Oh yeah.
Why? Because our moms, because we're all a bunch of mama's boys. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Our moms were everything to us. And so it one of the biggest things that we kind of extrapolated from that experience is that the disapproval from a feminine person, right? Disapproval from a woman was death.
Mm. Hmm.
And so I will do whatever it is that you want me to do. I'll be whoever it is you want me to be. I'll carry your books. I'll write you poetry. I'll bring you flowers. I'll do all of these things, right? And then I'll hear the worst things that we can hear, right? You are such a nice or such a good guy. You're going to make a woman very,
Yep.
masculinity, you know, you
Just
know,
not her though. Yeah,
not,
it's
not
not
the
me.
one that you're actively crushing on, right?
Right.
But anyway, to answer your question though, like masculinity at its core is it's instinctual, right?
Hmm.
Is our instinctual spiritual imperative to protect, right? To provide and to procreate. And in his book, The Masculine in Relationship, G.S. Youngblood, he kind of breaks that down further into um, responding rather than reacting to life, to women, to everything, right?
Hmm.
Um, Creating structure, so direction, leadership, forward thinking, right?
Hmm.
Productivity, and then creating safety.
Mm.
And there's an evolution to that. There's nuance to that because safety, safety means knowing jujitsu, sure. It means knowing how to use a gun, absolutely, right? It means being able to throw hands, but it also means creating safety within yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that nobody wants to talk about, right? Especially men, because we were taught that, masculinity is being James Bond.
Hmm.
There's elements to that, absolutely. We want stoicism. We want to be unfazed.
Hmm.
We want to be strong. But there is an untapped reserve of energy that makes you unstoppable.
Mm.
That is where I help my guys, right? Which is rooted in emotional intelligence
Hmm.
and healing, because so many of us have all of these daddy issues that gave us these ideas of what masculinity is, and all we want to do is the right thing. At our core, all we want to do is the right thing, but we do it with half of the story missing, half of the textbook.
Hmm.
I was taught that masculinity would just pay for things and just deal with shit, eat shit for the rest of it, right?
Pretty much.
And I don't want to be like my dad. I wanted to be more like my mom because she was, my source of safety and security. So I would behave like her. I would be more in my feminine. I'd be
Yep.
all about feelings. I'd be all about nurture and care and stuff. And that helped me, be a safe person, right? For women, but there was so much more that was missing. That's what that in terms of my attractive level, in terms of my masculine magneticism, or magnetism.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so yeah, man, that's my opinion as far as it, or that's my definition, right? Right. It is an energy. It is an instinctual energy to protect, to provide, to procreate, to respond rather than to react, to approach life from a holistic sense in terms of being a safe individual.
Mm.
So making room for all of your emotions, all of your feelings, right? And responding to life rather than being so reactive to everything,
Hmm.
right? Being a leader, okay? Being able to provide direction for yourself primarily, and then for those that you love, and creating structure. Okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going. This is what we stand for,
Hmm.
right? Personalized values, living in integrity with those values, moving forward from there and inspiring a new uh, um, conversation that the world can have with what masculinity means.
Mm. Damn, dude. So everything you're saying, I 100% resonate with, specifically like the James Bond thing, because that was literally my like same experience, not having that solid like idea of what a masculine man or masculinity was. That was the first thing I did was look at my like favorite superhero or favorite like, movie characters that exhibited what I thought was like a man. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like James Bond actually was like the first guy I went to when I was thinking of the idea of the name for my brand, like the sophisticated man. I was like, oh, James Bond, like that's manly, that's suave, it's sophisticated, and like that was exactly what I started thinking of. And I find it really interesting. Though I do agree with everything you're saying. I think the way you define masculinity is very, very similar to how I also define it. But what
Yeah.
I find interesting in society, and to kind of bring it back to a previous point where we're talking about the nice guys, I've seen like a divide, and I'm
Mm,
sure you probably noticed this as well, where if you bring up the word masculinity or you're talking about just self-improvement in general, there seems to be a very large spectrum of where guys fall in that category. They're either the super hyper masculine, aggressive, macho alpha guys where they think that they need to be this like boisterous, loud, kind of extroverted person.
yeah, the Lambro.
Yeah, exactly. Like the same kind of thing. And the guys on the other side of the spectrum were the timid, maybe a little shy, a little introverted, quiet, the nice guys, the very yeah, like the very like um what's the word for them? Like a little bit more feminine, I guess. You could say they're a little bit more like not as confident, I guess, in themselves. And it seems like there's both sides of that polarization. Guys
Mhm.
seem to like be either here or here. I personally think that like the answer always kind of lies somewhere right in the middle and kind of falling more in a ratio than just being to either extreme.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm just curious, like, have you noticed that at all in society where guys are either one way or the other way, or have you kind of interpreted anything differently?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's there's absolutely a divide, and another mentor of mine, he said, avoid extreme ideologies.
Yeah.
How does that show up in religion?
Mm,
And then what happens,
true.
right? So we have, um, I'm a very big hippie. Like I'm like, we are the world, right? Like I'm big on people like loving each other and stuff. I obviously want to be ready to protect my family and my own, et cetera.
Mm,
But at my core, I believe that everyone simply just wants, safety, approval, and control.
hmm
We are willing to do and be whoever it is that we need to do and be in order to get it, right? Everyone's searching for love given their model of the world. And so with that shifting in perspective for me, I realized, to have compassion, right? I've made the decision to have compassion for all of them because everyone on the extreme sides, they're hiding.
mm,
They are hiding. Everything that you said is true. And I want to add to that a little bit more context in that, you have the Lambros, the alpha guys, right? It's I'm going to create success from the outside in.
hmm
Okay. So that you can approve of me.
Right.
You can fill the hole in my soul.
hmm
And then you have the completely opposite. It's like, I'm not going to make any space. I'm not going to make any trouble for you. I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm not going to do anything. Right. Both of which overwhelm women at an exorbitant rate
Oh yeah.
because you have these masculine women that have these effeminate men and they're like, man up, god damn it, like, can you please show up for me, right? Can you please not have me be your mom? Can you stop being my gay best friend? Can you be my man? And then you have the other ones that are just like, hey, fucking, can you soften up? Can you hear me? Can you be present? And can you forgive your fucking father? Right?
hmm
Can you be whole? Can
mm,
you both stop over and under compensating and be what you said, the middle? Can you be yourselves? Our authentic self is, I do believe, to your point, our authentic self is found in the middle because
yeah.
there's part of me that absolutely wants to be the caveman, right? There's the part of me that loves being called daddy during sex, right? Just like the grunt,
hmm
you know, there's that part of me. And then there's the part of me that wants to sing Josh Groban, you raise me up, right? Like there's both parts of me. And in the middle lies Richard Lonsbury.
hmm True.
Because let me ask you, if you were happy all the time,
Oh, am I happy? No, definitely not.
if you were happy all the time,
Yeah,
would that bore the fuck out of you? Of
of course.
course, right? If you were miserable all the time, that'd be awful,
Be horrible. Yeah.
right? We want to avoid extreme ideologies.
hmm
The truth is in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that mean? Let's extrapolate that a little bit, all right? Some truth in that. Being in the middle means being at choice. It means creating space for all of you. The caveman and the sweet boy.
Mm-hmm.
You have the warrior in the garden and the gardener at war.
That's true.
Because the warrior in the garden in a relationship is a boring mother. Mike, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like everything. Ah, no, we need the soft and the hard, the
Yeah.
masculine and the
Mm.
and it's like healthy, grounded masculinity knows when to. It is the right thing at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best examples of this too was Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Not even to go there. It is Sunday, so yeah, shout out the guy. But like
Right.
when you think about how Christ embodied a healthy masculine, number one, championed women, championed the fuck out of them, right? He saw them as equal.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the Pharisees that are like, "Tuh!" you know, right? Like, oh, kiss my sandals. How dare you speak? Let's kill
Right.
her, kill her.
Some
Uh,
guys still think that.
you're right. Oh,
Some guys still
oh,
think that.
started. Get me started, right? But he was, a feminist in like the most pure sense of the word, right? In
Yeah.
that respect. But also he was unshakable. Remember when he's speaking on the hilltop and there's so many, hundreds of people, right? And then he turns to the disciples, are you guys going to go too? I'm fine, right? Because what did he do? He spoke about love, peace, happiness, right? Harmony. Then he also spoke about, hey, you know what I mean? Uh, drink my blood, bitches, right? And so there was a power to him. There was a magnetism because it was unapologetic. I'm willing to lose all of you
Mm.
because I am the way and the truth and the life.
Mm.
When you're rooted to the earth, when you are self-sourced, you know who you are. You be and you can be who you are. That makes you magnetic. It makes you unstoppable. It makes you scary.
Mm-hmm. Sure does.
And it makes you safe.
Mm.
Part of the reason why, you attract who you attract, right? Part of the
Mm.
reason why is because you give people permission to raise their hand. You give people permission to tap back into who they want to be,
Mm.
right? That's what leaders do. That's why I have so much respect for you, right?
Mm.
Is because you had to learn how to conquer your own demons in order to be able to do something which in the coaching world is called holding space. And holding space is simply not judging and being strong enough to handle whatever comes your way.
Mm.
What will that do for your relationships moving forward if you can do that?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you don't need a woman for anything, but you enjoy it? You know what I mean? Like you approach from a place of I don't need anything, I choose everything.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really important point because I know a lot of dating coaches talk about like cold approaching, like to only approach women when there's choosing signals. Like I've kind of heard a mix of different,
Everything.
all these different pieces of advice. And really, I think what it comes down to, at least in my experience, it's kind of like it's like in business too. You can relate a lot of this to the business as well.
Yeah.
You get a lot of inbound leads the more you improve your marketing. So that means what? Improving your style, improving your confidence, how you carry yourself, the way that you communicate, all these different things. More girls are probably going to notice you because you hold yourself a different way. You have a different
Yeah.
energy about you. But in the same token, just because you're getting a lot of inbound leads or women that are approaching or looking at you, that doesn't mean that a girl who is like, I don't know, maybe 10 feet away, she can't see you, doesn't mean that that can't turn into something really awesome too. You just,
Yeah.
you won't know until you go up and say something to her. So I think what you're referring to kind of reminds me of one of my favorite books that I read, which is the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, where it talks about the four archetypes of the
Yeah.
masculine, which is like obviously king, warrior, a magician, and then a lover. And I think a lot of guys miss like they're very hard and heavy in their again, it kind of comes back to my previous point. A lot of guys are really heavy in their lover side, where they're just all about pleasure, emotions, feelings, and all this stuff, and they lack that warrior. A lot of guys too are really hard in that warrior, where they're just go, 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 just like screw feelings, like fuck emotions. I'm just all about work and grinding. Well, both there's value in both, and I think that that's where the king comes in because the king is a combination of all of those things at one time. It's just simply it's the balance exactly. So I think what's funny is when you really become like that authentic person and you really like develop yourself in a whole, you you start to develop like just positive traits from every corner of the spectrum. Like you get
Yeah.
some good things from this side, good things from this side, good things from over here, but then you apply it to like who you are internally. And I think what's funny about that is everyone's in the mindset of I'm all in here or I'm all in here. I can't be like an individual. I can't like have my own unique spin on things. Like
Yeah.
everybody's on this side of the thing or this side of the thing. It's like there's nothing wrong with having good ideas come from everywhere and just getting value from different places.
Mhm. I have a question for you. What is something that you did to activate your own king energy and become more balanced as a man?
Mm, that's a great question. I think for me, I was always pretty in tune with my lover side. So I kind of always had that naturally
Well,
similar to your, what's that?
you're Italian.
Exactly. Always, man. Always into like at a young age, man, like into like dancing, music, all that kind of stuff. Family, like all of that is just always kind of been in my DNA. And similar to you, kind of I was more, quote unquote, the mama's boy, like kind of raised by my mom more, kind of had more attention. Like when I had a problem or something was going on, I went right to my mom. And that was like always kind of the way it was. And for me, that's kind of how I got a really solid, like feminine side. I always felt comfortable doing that. But I think the issue for me a lot of the early years of my life was I was just so insecure about that I never felt like a man, quote unquote. I never knew like my masculine side. I didn't know that that was even in there. I always felt like I was too feminine, too much of a nice guy, too much of a people pleaser, right? So for me, I really had to work on that warrior side, that guy that was just masculine. He was stoic, he's grounded. He knew how he knew like finding purpose, having a mission, having things that I was working on, building that structure. I had to really work on that stuff for me. And I think what's interesting is every guy has their own unique journey in masculinity. I mean, that could be maybe you're too warrior, you need to work on your lover. Maybe you're too lover, you need to work on your warrior. Maybe you're too magician, which is the other piece of it. You're gaining all this information, you're learning, but then you're not applying it in any facet. So you're stuck. So a lot of guys fall in that too. But
So what you're talking about, to your point, real quick, just
yeah,
is you're talking about being initiated.
more or less, yeah, like the call to adventure, basically.
What was yours?
I think for me, I've talked about this on the stream before and on my channel, but I think that's just really just starting entrepreneurship and like starting the business and learning that this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, bar none. And it's not even close. Like there's
Yeah.
so much stuff that was revealed to me in terms of like what I suck at, my weaknesses, deficiencies. I mean, just everything was just like this is what I need to work on. And I'm just so grateful that I did start it at when I did because I just was in a transition when I graduated college, not knowing what I wanted to do from there. I didn't have a sense of purpose. I didn't have a sense of really identity even as a man. So
Mhm.
all of that, even becoming a coach and like learning about self-improvement, learning about
Yeah.
masculine, feminine dynamics and all that stuff, to me, that was my initiation. That was my, entrance into manhood.
Yeah.
And I'm not even really saying I'm fully there yet. Like I don't think I'm even really where I ideally want to be. I'm still pretty young, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think every guy has the call, or every guy can get a call, but it's like not everyone is willing to go down that journey.
Yeah.
Oh,
How would you advise? And I can answer this question too. But
yeah.
I'm very about because I love hearing you speak too, right? Like I love the
Sure.
sound of my own. Don't get me wrong. I I'm fascinated by you because like, and I'm not sucking your dick here, but you're just so healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's the balance is palpable. You can feel it. You
Hmm.
can there's like I you have dirt under your fingernails,
Hmm.
you know, and that's one of my buddies, Jim Vance. I love what he said. He said, if you don't have dirt under your fingernails, I can't trust you as a man.
Facts. That's facts.
You know, like really,
Yep.
like have you been in the mud, right?
Hmm.
On purpose.
Right. Right.
There, right? Have you been in the mud? Have you put yourself through hell on purpose?
Hmm.
Rather, you know, and but my question is how would you, because I'm thinking about your audience and I'm thinking about, okay, I get it. It makes sense. Put yourself through the ringer or something like that, entrepreneurship, testing oneself, testing your metal,
Hmm.
right? Blacksmithing oneself.
Yep.
How did you become aware, right? Or is this more of a hindsight thing? It's like, oh, I actually initiated myself, right? Did you know that you needed to put yourself through some shit to
Mm.
become and that you are today? Or was it just like I'm just fumbling in the dark?
Mm. That is a good question. Um, so it's kind of interesting, my answer, because I remember being young and always feeling like I'm not the same as everybody else. Like not to
Yeah.
sound cocky, not to sound like arrogant or anything, but I always kind of knew at a young age. I just thought differently. I had a different view on the world and just people. I was kind of like I don't know how I would describe it. I was almost like the outcast as a kid, but not like I was like a loser and like everybody picked on me. I was more or less the kid who kind of always did his own thing. I
Mm-hmm.
never really fit into any certain group or just, cliched like clique or anything like that. I kind of always was cool with everybody, could get along with anybody, always was just my own person.
Yeah.
And knowing that at a young age, I had a lot of self-awareness, like pretty young.
Okay.
So I knew that I didn't exactly know about masculine and feminine stuff. I had no idea about that until I hit my 20s. But I think once I started to learn that, I'm like, oh, this makes sense. That's why I was the way that I was, and this is where I need to go. It kind of put like a definition to what I was going through.
Yeah.
So I was pretty aware of it, but I didn't know, like starting a business or entrepreneurship, I didn't like consciously think at that moment, this is the thing that's going to make me into the man I want to be. I just figured, hey, this is a direction right now. Let me just take it. I didn't know like it was going to give me to this point.
But there
Um,
was
but there
like
was a
you
call. Yeah, for sure. Most
cool.
definitely.
I love that, man. I
Yeah.
I I my initiation was just recent. Like I
Mm.
lost everything.
Yeah, you were telling me that.
Right? I lost everything. I because I was not man enough in any capacity
Mm.
to my children, to handle my woman, to handle a job. I saw it, right? Like so to be of more practical use from on my end for your people is, you know, where are you out of integrity? You know what I mean? Where do all of your excuses come? Do you find yourself making more excuses than you do taking responsibility? Something
Mm.
that one of my mentors told me is he said the most powerful words that you can say when you don't reach an objective isn't, well, it's because because this, because, right?
Hmm.
Be external force.
Yep.
The reason why I'm broke is because
Yep.
and then the reason I'm not dating a total 10 right now is because
Hmm.
the reason my business, whatever it is, man, whatever it is,
Yep.
I don't have friends, is because I. So it forces your brain to really answer that question. You ask your brain a question, it's going to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Plato said the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the quality of questions that you ask yourself. A
Yep.
lot of are lost because
Literally.
they're not asking themselves any fucking questions,
They're
let
not.
alone questions of merit, any questions of substance, right?
Yeah, not the right questions. Yeah.
And so I ended up, it wasn't until life pushed me and grinded me, forced me. God really was like, okay, you want to be the greatest man ever lived? You want to be the greatest relationship coach? Bet. Here's this woman with all of her baggage, her wounded masculine heart, right? From abuse, rape, all of these things.
Mm.
What are you gonna do with it? You want to be with her? What are you gonna do with it?
Mm-hmm.
You're these kids that you did not ask for, but you ended up having sex anyways, right? You just had to take this woman out for Italian food, and you had to go watch Lego Movie. You had to get off of Exit 98, over your hometown. You had to have sex in your 1995 Civic, right? What now, bitch? Right? What am I gonna do? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna complain and I'm gonna blame you, asshole. Right?
Seriously, yeah.
Life. That's when the shift finally happened. I complained, I complained, I complained, I complained. I dropped the ball, I dropped the ball, I dropped the ball. And finally I lose them.
Mm.
Lose custody of my children. I lose my woman. I lose my home. I lose my job. I lose it all.
Mm.
I am it got embarrassing, dude. I was asking former clients for money.
Jeez.
Okay. I would borrow from people that hired me to help change their life.
Man.
You want to talk about facing shame and guilt,
That had to be humbling.
you know? I mean, I was, and in their own worldview, still am at times like the failure of the family or the black sheep of the family now, right? It's ironic because I closed the 10K client and they're like, "Oh, what a failure! Where did we go wrong with you?" Right? But it's like it is what it is. Life
Yeah.
goes on. Point is, man, I was a professional victim. I was a professional complainer until I chose to do one thing, which every man gets to do, which will change their life, which is to take responsibility
Yep.
for it all. And I want to say this because every fucking wounded nice guy always says the same thing. Yeah, well, right? Like what about her? What about my wife? What about my girl? What about my ex who broke my heart? What about that bitch that cheated? Man, bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks, man. That's a fucking easy setting, right? Like, no, okay, yes.
Mm.
All of your pain is valid. To anybody who actually gives a shit enough to listen to this part of me rant, okay? All of your pain is valid. No one says that it isn't. Taking responsibility is literally in that, is in giving yourself the ability to respond,
Mm.
not to react. Because your pain is like the puppet master. It runs you until you choose, the ability to respond to it, which means taking it on, processing it, and letting it go.
Mm.
Otherwise, you end up fucking. You've heard the phrase "hurt people, hurt people." You end up
Right.
bleeding all over. I bled. I fucking bled all over my wife and kids,
Mm.
all over them. I traumatized them.
Hmm.
Wall punching, complaining about bills, not wanting to take on the family that I created
Yeah.
because I was too much of a bitch to take responsibility. Oh, my dad didn't hug me.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. Okay, that's not your fault. He was doing the best that he could given his model of the world. What are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
Right? And it is in that choice to take responsibility and then initiate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what you do, man, as a facilitator of greatness is that you invite them to be initiated.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and here's the thing about initiation, it doesn't mean go to the fucking mountains, right? with a backpack full of rocks and be a man, right? Like you don't have to plan yourself. Sometimes your initiation can be willing to get rejected by the baddie at the bar
Yep.
and not be angry at women after that.
Mm-hmm. That's so
Not
true.
be right, not be like bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks because Tiffany said no to me.
Right.
Wounding. That's immaturity.
Mm-hmm.
It is, hey, she rejected me. Either I didn't come across as a safe person, right? I didn't maintain frame. I wasn't fun, or something happened. She could feel my nervousness, so she skittered away like a fucking deer. Okay, that's okay. Take that L, feel the pain. Don't make it mean anything about you, and go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's in the resilience. That's why, and you and I, as recovering nice guys, dude, we were like, well, why does she always have sex with the bad boy? Because he's not afraid of her.
Yep.
Now he has his own baggage. Wifey called me the bad boy whisperer because that's who I worked with for years. It was the Marines. It was the guys who were like, I don't like hugs. I love my family, but I just don't want to hug them. I'm not good at receiving love, right? Like
Right.
cracking the shell open.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I'm getting a little bit long-winded here. But the point is, that was the number one thing. If you want, for anybody listening to this, just walking away with anything is just your ability to take responsibility.
Yes.
Puts you back in the driver's seat of your life as a man. It
Mm-hmm.
it returns you back to, okay, wait, I get to choose. I get to choose what to do now. I get to choose, right? It lets everything off the hook. It frees you. It frees you from circumstance,
Mm-hmm.
and it turns you into the author of your life.
Yeah.
And then you can become initiated, and then you can become unstoppable.
Mm.
Part of being unstoppable is you open your heart and you be willing to feel anything that life throws at you. Can you talk to that girl and be willing to face the pain of rejection? Can you do that 100 times? Because
True.
on the 101st time, my God, oh, you're a different man.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing, right? You stay
Yeah.
humble. You're willing to listen to your coach Tino, right? Like on the 101st time, you're going to be unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
But it is willing to take responsibility. Don't blame anybody else. Life is not happening to you. It is happening for you.
Yeah.
Life is an ally.
Mm.
So when you make that shift, that is when your journey into healthy, grounded masculinity really begins.
Yep. I agree with everything you said there, man. I think, well, and what you're saying too is perfectly kind of like full circle moment to kind of what we were talking about earlier in the call here about, responsibility and even respect to a
Mm,
degree, because I'm starting to realize too, the more I go about my journey and the more I do in my life and in business, I really think the key difference between boyhood and manhood is just responsibility. Exactly the point you're making is being more responsible, having things that you're taking care of, whether that is a family or it is a business. Maybe you're working on building things, or maybe you're just like responsible for your own health in your
mm,
body. You're working on yourself in the gym. You're trying to get your physique on point, trying to get your money right, whatever it is. Having some kind of level of accountability, ownership, responsibility over the things that you're doing, it's just such an empowering experience. And I think what's really great about that, and it's such a this thing is such a key component to men, and just the way that we communicate with each other, and especially even with how we interact with women, is respect.
mm,
Because when you can be responsible, you start to respect yourself a little bit more. You're like,
yeah.
damn, like I did do that. All right, you know what? I did hit that PR in the gym because I worked so hard. I was disciplined. Oh, I did approach that girl and she she didn't like me, but I feel good about myself. I don't care what happened, you know,
Yeah.
or I started that business. I learned a lot. Now it's successful. I'm proud of myself. I respect that. And what's funny is when you respect yourself because you know the work that you put in, other men respect you because men are high on respect. We really value guys. We give guys respect when we see that they've done the work or that we see that they've done something to themselves to put themselves through some kind of tough time or such situation or um
They have dirt under their fingernails.
exactly. Yeah, they have some kind of responsibility they had to garner through hardship. And it's like, damn, I respect that guy. I might not agree with him. I might not even like him per se, but I do respect him because I see that he's done the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd say to any guy who's potentially watching this, if you really want to gain respect, not just in with other men or with women, but in yourself, most importantly, yourself, you got to get some responsibility. You have to be more responsible to the things that are happening in your life and what
Yeah.
you're trying to do, what you're trying to build. Because at the end of the day, when no one else is watching, you are. So make sure that you're doing the right things.
Can I speak to that real quick before
Please, please do.
one of my coaches, he said, authority naturally flows to the man who takes the most responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so a lot of these guys, they want to be the boss.
Yes.
They want to be boss, right?
Hmm.
They want to be the guy who signs Drake's checks. You know what I mean?
Right.
And but in order to do that, you have to be willing to handle Drake.
It's
You
true.
know, so you're in order to have, and it gives you more authority. The
Hmm.
more responsibility you take, and I think for wherever you are,
Hmm.
starting, if you're in the mailroom, then that's your fucking mailroom.
Right.
It has to be the cleanest mailroom, and everything has to go smooth. Butter that will be noticed. I guarantee you. If
Hmm.
it's in your family, right? If it's in your family, start dialing in and getting to know your kids, right? Get to know your woman. Take that Enneagram test. Take the love languages test. Start to take responsibility for the direction of your relationship.
Hmm.
Right? If it's
100%.
marriage, if it's as the CEO, right? It's taking responsibility in that regard in terms of taking responsibility for your health,
Hmm.
for your being, for the direction of this thing from a whole place, not a wounded place. And so
Yep.
that's just authority flows naturally to the person who takes the most, to the man who takes the most responsibility. And that means letting your dad off the hook. That means letting Becky from high school, right, who cheated, with Jordan or Caden or Zayden or Braden or Jaden or Faden, right? Right? Like that means letting them go
Mm.
because they do not get to dictate and define you. They get to refine you.
Mm. Wow.
They can harden you up so that you can get that respect that you were talking about. You can
Hmm.
give that to yourself.
Yeah. That was beautifully said, man. And I think to even add to that a little further too, when it comes to leadership and when it comes to the guys that want to be the boss, I feel like the same kind of thing applies to anyone in a position of authority. Like just because you have the title of manager or
Yeah.
CEO or boss doesn't actually mean that you have that authority. Like I've worked in retail for a number of years where and I'm sure a lot of people maybe experience this where their managers are just like howling at them, tell them, hey, clean that box, clean that aisle, go do this, go do that. And I remember not really respecting them because they're telling me to do something that I know they're not doing themselves. And they just wanted to be the boss. They want to be in charge of somebody. And I think guys get into trouble when they they're interacting with women. Let's use dating as an example. When they're interacting with women, they tell them, go over here, do this with me, do this, do that. But they're trying they're trying to be the one in charge instead of actually being the one. Like if you're really if you're really a guy that is dominant, if you're really a guy that's, quote unquote alpha, whatever you want to use, whatever word float your boat. You don't have to say it.
Mm,
It's understood. You don't have to say what's understood. And
helped.
when you show up that way, yeah, when you show up that way, and just embody it, they know what the deal is. Women will naturally want to follow you if you just naturally know how to lead and naturally know
Yeah.
how to take care of the situation, make her feel safe. You don't have to try very hard. It just comes naturally. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I think that really applies to a lot of different things.
Yeah, man. I love that.
Yeah, brother. Well, I think that was a perfect segue to kind of close it out there. I know you got stuff to do later on today with the fam, so I don't want to hold you too much longer.
Yeah, my son's eighth birthday. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
man.
Go to the aquatic center and drown him. I don't know. That's his initiation into afterlife.
Yeah, yep. That's his initiation right there. Learn how to
Oh,
swim.
yes. Oh my god. No, man, we're gonna go swimming. We're gonna go swimming, and I'm gonna take responsibility for this dad bod. So
Nice.
it is what it is.
Nice. Love that. Cool, man. Well, yeah, dude, I wanted to kind of share just any of your plugs. If people want to find out more about you and what you got going on, where can they find you on social media?
I'm on TikTok. It's relationship coach Richard. That's my handle. On Facebook, it's Richard Lonsbury. Those are the two places where I'm usually doing the most ranting and raving, and where you can access me if you actually need to, attract your wife back and save your sex life.
Awesome.
So those are the two main places. Also, yeah, talk to you so that you can refer me over, and
Sure.
then
100%.
right then there's all of our adventures. Well, but
Yeah.
for now, TikTok and Facebook places for me. I really appreciate you having me on and having an opportunity to speak to all these young bucks that and no, I just love you, man. I'm very grateful for this.
100%, dude. Yeah, dude, I appreciate you coming on. And if you guys want to see his links, I'll obviously leave all that down below so you guys can check it out, make it easier to find. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on board. I know you had stuff to do today, so we're able to make it work. But yeah, man, this was a really, I think, deep and valuable conversation that is worth watching. Even a couple times. I'll probably run this back a few times myself just to kind of like relearn anything that maybe I missed the first time. I tell you guys all the time,
Yeah.
watch it a couple times because the first time around you will miss a couple things. So rewatch it a few times just to gain some extra insight on things that we said because there was a lot of really solid information in here. And yeah, bro, I'm just appreciative of you coming on and sharing.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna get going and wrap up this call. And again, I appreciate Richard for coming on. Hopefully, have you on sometime in the future. If you
Yes, sir.
guys want to follow me and know more about what I got going on, obviously, you're viewing this from YouTube. You can find my Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. You want to work with me? There's links down below. You know what the deal is. Like the video, subscribe, all that stuff on YouTube. You know how they say it. So we're gonna go and have wrap it. Have the wow. We're gonna get going wrapping up. So I've been on calls for hours all day today. It's just kind of getting back to the flow of things. Um, we're gonna get going. Have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Peace.